Hey everyone, I am Aiqi from CoSpace Park. Welcome to our pre-recorded session. Today, we have invited a very special guest. Do stay tuned to find out more. Before we start, I'd like to give a small introduction of CoSpace Park. We are actually a co-working space. We also offer event space for rental as well. We are also open to collaborations, so do drop us an email or give us a call. In addition, do visit us on social media and our websites as well. Links are in the description box below. Now, without further ado, I shall pass my time to the speaker.
Hi, I'm Luca Dellanna, published author of 5 books and management consultant, and today I will talk to you about how you can ace your career as an office worker or as a management employee. And the reason why I make this talk is because every time that I talk with someone who's been an employee for long and is not satisfied with how his career is going, is that I realize that he's spending a lot of time and effort on his career, and he's working very hard, but he's not necessarily doing the things that matter. And the sad truth is that his career will not be determined by how hard he works, but by how hard he works at the things that matter. And that's not the only thing that matters. The big misconception that people have about their career is that their career will only be determined by how well they do their job. And this is wrong. It's important, but it's only one of the 4 factors that influence one's career. So the first one, the one that everyone knows about, is how well you do your job. The second factor is how much value you had outside of the things that are in your job description. The third thing that matters a lot is whether you have a good boss. A boss which is both able to open the doors for you and that is able to get out of the way and let you do the things that you need to do for your career. And the fourth thing is whether you're working for a company that is growing fast, or in a country that is growing fast, or in a market that is growing fast, or in an industry that is growing fast. Because the faster your company, your market, your country, your industry are growing, the more your career will go fast, the more there will be job openings, the higher will be the budgets and investment, and the easier everything else will be. So there are 4 factors that will then influence your career. But unfortunately, people only focus on one most of the time, and they tend to leave the other 3 completely to chance. And that's a waste, because you will spend for 30-35 years of your life 1/3 almost of your waking time on it, and you do not want really to leave it too much to chance. And that's not only like if you're ambitious, but in general, that's about having a high quality of life at your job. Because if you're good at your job, you can do more, you can get more with less effort. You can be safer at your job. There are less chances that they will fire you. If you work for a company which is growing, your job is safer, for example. You can have more satisfaction. With the same amount of work, you will be able to do more, and so on. And the other point which is extremely important is to know what are the things that matter in your job position. And very often, the subset of things that people tell you, especially your boss, the things that your boss tells you that you have to do, are usually only a subset of the things that you need to do. And the reason for that is that sometimes not even your boss knows or is able to articulate what are the things that will bring value. And so maybe he will limit yourself to telling you the things that he knows how to put in words, or the things that he knows that you can do, or the things that after he tells you that are important, if you ask them how you do them, he's able to answer. But very often there are things which are extremely important, but they're not mentioned because there is no instruction list that goes with it, so that then you can put them into practice. How do you know then what's important in your job? What's determinant for your career if you do it or not? My favorite way is to ask yourself 3 questions. What does the average person in your position do? What does a good performer in your position do? And what does the best person in the world in your position do? And this is a great question, because usually the difference between average and good is that the person who is good does the same thing that the average one does, just a bit better, a bit faster, a bit more. But instead what you see is that the best person in the world at that thing, there are, yes, some things that they do better, yes, some things that they do more, but there are also a lot of things that they do less. So one thing that I did one day when I was still working in an office job in a corporate, and that made a big improvement in my career, was that I asked my boss, what of the things that I'm doing doesn't matter? And I discovered, for example, that there was a report that I was sending out every Friday that didn't really matter, that almost no one was reading. And so that freed up 3 hours from my working life every week that I could use on something else. Something which would actually be good for my company, something which would be good for my boss, something which would be good for my customers, or something which would be good for me. And those, by the way, are your 4 main stakeholders at your job. And your career will be impacted by your performance with those 4 stakeholders. So some good questions that you want to ask yourself is what you can do to be of value for your customers, regardless of whether it's on your job description or not. And by your customers, I mean the customers of your company, which you somehow manage to face, directly or indirectly, that you're serving. The second question is what you can do to be of value for your boss, outside of what's already in your job description, other things. The third thing is that you can ask yourself is how can you be of help for your company in excess to the things which are already in your job description. And the fourth question that you can ask yourself is how you can be of help for yourself. Sometimes you will have the awareness to ask those questions, to answer those questions yourself, and sometimes you will not. And the best way is to ask these questions to those people. So for example, you can go to your boss and ask him, what can I do that I'm not already doing that can be of value for you? Or if you don't have a good enough relationship with your boss, you can look at your colleagues and see what of your colleagues they're having a fast career, of what of your colleagues are the favorites of your boss, and you can see if there is anything that they're doing which is providing value. And the same thing can be for your customers. You can see, for example, if in your company there are 5 people that are interacting with the customers, facing them, and one of them is more liked by the customers, they prefer to interact with him rather than with others, you can ask yourself the question, what is he doing differently from everyone else? and maybe you can try to do something of the same. So, what you want to be aware of is that a big contributor to your career will be how much value you can provide. And usually the value that you provide inside, the things that are inside your job description, might or might not necessarily be the things which are important for your career. Or they might be necessary to have a good performance there, but it might not be sufficient for you to have a great career. And so you need to be aware that there are things outside of your job description which you might need to do. And one of your tasks for the near future will be to understand what those things are. And the way you can understand that, my favorite way, is to look at someone who's extremely successful in the field in which you're working, and then ask yourself some questions. Maybe you can read his biography, or if he's someone that you can approach, you can talk to him and ask him for a coffee, and then look for what he's been doing. More importantly, look for the things that he was caring about. So, for example, was he caring about the customer experience? Or was he caring about being a clear communicator? Or was he caring about facilitating communication inside a company? Or whatever. The thing is that there isn't an obvious answer for everyone, but there is an obvious answer for your industry and for the kind of company in which you're working. And that's what you want to be aware of, and that's what you should seek to look for. Then another question that I get asked very often is, Luca, how do I get a raise? So there are two misunderstandings about raises. The first one is that the raise is not something that you get, but is something that you ask for. Some companies, they do have a minimum raise progression. Some bosses, they do initiate raises for their subordinates. But what you need to be aware of is that that is the floor. So that's the minimum. And you can go much faster than that. How? Asking. And then there is also this thing that very often companies, they have all the incentives to not give you a raise if you're not asking for it. And that's not only about saving money or squeezing each drop of juice out of you, but it's also about allocation of resources. And what companies realize is that there is a very good correlation often between people that ask for raise and people that will be able to raise their performance, so that even after the raise or after the promotion, they will be able to learn the new things that they will need to excel at the next step. And so it makes sense for them to use the "are they asking me for a raise" as an indicator of whether you deserve the raise. So very often people, they have this bad perception that I will be a good employee and not ask for raises, wait for the raise to come. But very often you will see that one of the ways that companies see whether you're a good employee or not is whether you're asking for raises. I mean, good employee as in someone who's going to perform and who's going to grow. So definitely ask for raises. How often? It definitely depends on the company you're working at, and the industry, and the market, and the country. But my rule of thumb would be at least once every 18 months. And then the second misconception is that asking for a raise only involves asking for the raise. like setting up a meeting with your boss and then telling him, boss, I want a raise, and then wait for him to answer. And that's wrong. What you want to do instead is showing that the raise is inevitable. So you want to do a bit of homework and prepare a list of the things that you've been doing over the last 6 or 12 months, which have been so valuable for the company, or for your boss, or for his customers, that you deserve the raise. And the raise is inevitable. And then you need to come with this list to your boss. And so the good approach is to set up a meeting with your boss and then say, boss, over the last 12 months, I've been doing this, this, and that, which brought this tangible result for the companies, this tangible result, and this tangible result. For example, more money, more revenue, more profit, lower costs, more customers. And I think that this brought great results for the company, and I think that's fair that the company rewards me with a raise. That's the kind of discussion you want to have. And then you should also know how much is the raise that you're asking for. And this should be based on some homework that you do. Maybe asking other colleagues or other people in the industry, going on websites or making some research on the internet to know how much is a good raise, how much is the pay of a person in the position that you will assume, and so on. And then, by the way, another rule about promotions is never accept more responsibilities without getting anything tangible in return. And by anything tangible, I mean anything. It could be a raise, it could be a promotion, but it could also be more holidays, or it could be flexible working time, or it could be getting to work on the project that you wanted to work for, or getting to work with that very experienced person in your company, which will be a mentor for you, or whatever. It's not really important getting the most out of it, but it's important to pass the message that responsibilities and good work, they go together with rewards. Because otherwise, you will pass the message that you do not think that your work should be rewarded. And that is a big red flag, because either it will pass the message that you're not ambitious, so you will likely stagnate at some point of your career, or it passes the message that you know something that others do not. So it will pass the message that you know that there is, maybe you did some mistake or you took some shortcuts, so your work is not as good as it looks like, and you will not be able to produce the kind of work that goes together with the raise that you're asking for, or with the promotion that you're asking for. So this is something that you should get into your mindset, that very often companies use whether you're asking for a raise and how you behave during the ask for a raise as an indicator of how much you will be able to raise your performance in the future and where in the company you will peak. Because they want to allocate precious resources such as job titles, promotions, raises, and so on, to people which will keep raising performance and will not stagnate. Another question that I get very often is, how do I improve my relationship with my boss so that I can get confident enough to ask for a raise, or ask for a promotion, or ask for a change in my working conditions without knowing that he will just dismiss my request? And the answer is that there are many kinds of bosses. There are good bosses, there are bad bosses, there are bosses that are distrustful by nature, there are bosses which will never change, and so on. And it's very important that you understand which kind of boss you're facing. If you have a terrible boss, which you know will be a huge problem for your career, then do whatever you can to change boss. And this might mean either you move horizontally in your company, so you get to a new position, to a new division, you change your boss, or you try to move to a new company. Sometimes instead, you have a good boss, or a boss with the potential to be a good boss, and you just do not have a good enough relationship with him. And then, in this case, you should try to talk openly about it, saying stuff like, I see that we don't have a good relationship, I probably made some mistakes in the past, I want to start from anew. Can you please tell me how I can do my job better, or how I can be a better employee, or how can I be a better help for you? Those are very good questions, and if you tell them, ask them in a good way, with a good tone of voice, and with the good spirit, then it will do very good for you and for your relationship with your boss and for your satisfaction at work. Then another thing that I advise everyone is to regularly try to look for jobs at other companies. Even if you don't want to change company, especially if you are very happy with your current company. And the reason is, looking for jobs at other companies, maybe landing an interview, and then you can also just land an interview, not show up. But knowing that there would be other companies out there that would hire you is a great way to increase your confidence, and to make sure that you will take the kind of little risks that will bring great returns in your career. For example, if you know that other companies might be interested in you, you will be able to propose that risky idea during the meeting, or you will take that brave action with the customer that will bring great dividends for you, for your boss, for your company, that would warrant a better career for you. Because too often I see people who are extremely content with the job that they have, and the result is that they go into this modus operandi of not taking any risk, and that ends up hurting their career. And then 15 years down the road, their career is hurt, and it's not progressing anymore because they're not taking risks, and that lack of progression becomes frustration, and then at that point it's too late. And that's something that I see a lot. So my advice would be, keep looking outside of your company. Even if you don't want to leave your company, just in order to get this placebo, this knowledge that you know what's the job market, you know that the other companies might be interested in you, and that will bring you confidence. And that will also bring you, by the way, information, because you will know how much other people are making in your same position, so you know how much to ask for to your boss during the next raise. Or you also know what other companies require. By seeing other job descriptions, you might know that there is something you can do in your position right now to add value which you didn't know before. Then another topic that I want to talk about is overtime. We need to distinguish between chronic overtime and spikes in overtime. A lot of jobs, they have some rare moment during the year in which a spike in overtime is warranted. For example, there is an important deadline, there is the launch of a new product, or some jobs, they have some seasonality, like a lot of excess work to do before Christmas, or these kind of things. In this case, it's normal to have some spikes of overtime. For example, 1 week during the year in which you need to work 2 hours more than usual. And that is a sign of a healthy job. A job in which you're adapting to the customer or to the necessities at hand. But then there is also chronic overtime, like the necessity of having to work every week or every other week, and that's not good. And that's not good because it's a sign of a structural problem. And this might be either a problem in your company, in your boss, or in you. It might be a problem in your boss, as in your boss is not able to devise some processes which are efficient enough so that people can do them and finish them during the 40 hours per week. Or it might be a problem of the company, as in the company is understaffed, there is just too much to do. And this is not a good sign, because if the company is not willing to hire the people that it needs to hire, then it's probably also not willing to promote you or to give you the raises that you will want to have to be satisfied with your career. Or maybe it's also a problem with you, as in you're not working efficiently, or you're doing things that do not add value. And in this case, something that I see too often is that people do overtime because they think that overtime signals commitment and overtime signals working hard, and that's going to help them in their career, in getting a good opinion from their boss. But that's wrong. I was talking with a CEO of a company, and he was telling me that he has a problem because there is an employee in his company that is working too much overtime, and he wants a promotion because of it. But working overtime is the reason why they cannot give him the promotion. Because if they add more opportunities, that person will burn out. That person's solution for her career has been, when I have more work, to work more. When I have more problems, when I have more things to do, to work longer hours. And that's unsustainable. And if it's unsustainable, and if your boss knows that it's unsustainable, your boss will not be able to promote you. Because that's just too much. Giving you the promotion would mean giving you more work, and he knows that you're not able to handle more work and more responsibilities, and you will drop some balls, you will make some mistakes, which will be expensive for the company, so better not to give you the promotion. So the lesson is, I've never known anyone, unless at the most manual jobs, in which working harder meant more chances of getting a promotion. The willingness to do the occasional overtime when there is a problem is a signal of loyalty, is a signal of dependability, it's a signal of responsibility, it's a signal of caring. But giving chronic overtime instead is a sign of incompetence. And you should not do it. Now I know that there are some cultures that this is not true for all cultures. There are some cultures, like I heard about Japanese, for example, in which it's required that you spend extra hours in the office. My advice would be then, spend as little time as possible as doing your job. I mean, just mean the minimum criteria. And spend the rest of your time either learning new skills or doing tasks outside of your job description, which bring value to your company outside of your job description. Because that's what's more likely to do good for you in your career. Either giving you more promotions or either giving you skills which are more likely to land you a new position or a new job at another company. So to sum it up for the moment, what's the biggest mistake that most people do is not understanding what are the signals that their boss or their company might be looking for to give a great career to some of their employees. And these are not necessarily explicit signals. They're not necessarily things that the company tells you during the training or that are written in your job description. And it should be your priority, if you want to have a great career, to find out what those signals are and to deliver on those signals. And to make sure that you deliver on those signals, on those indicators, in a way which is sustainable. Because if you take shortcuts, they will hurt your career. And remember that chronic overtime is one of such shortcuts. And it will hurt your career, either because you will burn out, or because it will signal that you will be willing to work without getting anything in return, or because it signals incompetence, or it signals that you're not able to do your work properly. So yeah, so that's the main learning for today. Make sure that you understand what are the implicit rules of your job. What are those rules that no one will tell you, especially no one will tell you unless you ask the right questions, and make sure that you learn about them and that you begin focusing your time and effort on delivering against them. Thank you. I'm Luca Dellanna. I work more on that on Twitter. My Twitter is Dellanna Luca, DELLANNALUCA, and my website is luca-dellanna.com, LUCA-DELLANNA.com. Thank you very much.